Hello, you're on the Story Audio Diaries. Subscribe and like. Let's go.
I wasn't expecting anything unusual that day. It was just a typical Thursday in Austin, clouds hanging low over the skyline, that sticky kind of spring heat that clings to your shirt before noon. I had just wrapped up a lunch meeting with a tech client downtown and was driving home, halfway lost in a podcast about market trends, halfway thinking about whether I should pick up Thai or cook something Jenna probably wouldn't eat. That's when I saw it. A black Dodge Charger parked along the side of a residential street near our neighborhood, just a few blocks before our cul-de-sac. It was one of those newer models, matte finish, tinted windows. Not a car I recognized, but for some reason it made me slow down. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe? Or something else. As I got closer, I noticed a silhouette in the passenger seat. At first, it was just a vague figure. A woman. Long, light brown hair. Then the light shifted just right, and I saw her face. Jenna. My wife. I felt the air leave my lungs for a second, like someone had knocked the wind out of me. She was supposed to be at work, at least, that's what she told me that morning. A mid-afternoon meeting, she said, nothing big. She even kissed me goodbye like she always did, that half-distracted peck she gives when she's running late. But there she was, sitting in the front seat of someone's car. Not a rideshare. Not a coworker carpool. This felt personal. The man next to her was angled toward her, his arm resting casually on the center console, his fingers lightly touching her wrist. It wasn't possessive or overtly romantic, but there was an *Macy in the way they sat, bodies turned slightly inward, close enough that their knees might have touched. She was smiling. Not the smile she gives to strangers or polite company. It was softer. Familiar. The kind of smile I used to get when we were first dating. I slowed the car to a crawl, trying not to draw attention. I wanted to believe I was wrong. That it wasn't what it looked like. But the moment he leaned in just a little, like he was about to whisper something, and she didn't pull away, didn't flinch, didn't even look around to check if anyone might see them. I knew. Before I could get a better look, the guy shifted into gear and pulled away. I thought about following them. My hand hovered over the turn signal, heart pounding in my chest like I was about to do something reckless. But I didn't. I just sat there for a second, engine idling, staring at the empty spot where they'd been. Eventually, I drove the rest of the way home, still gripping the steering wheel like I was afraid the car might fly off the road. When I walked in the door, Jenna was already there. She stood by the kitchen island, pouring a glass of cucumber water like nothing had happened. She looked calm, casual. She smiled when she saw me. Hey, babe, she said, like she always did. How was the meeting? I stood in the doorway a second too long, trying to get my voice to work. Fine, I said, eventually, setting my keys in the dish by the door. You home early? She nodded. Yeah. Meeting got canceled last minute. Ryan was nearby and offered to drop me off, so I figured why not. She didn't meet my eyes when she said his name. Ryan. I didn't know a Ryan. At least, not one she'd ever mentioned. I didn't ask questions. I didn't confront her. I just said cool and walked past her into the living room like none of it mattered. She kept talking about lunch, about how work was slow, about whether we should finally book that cabin trip we'd talked about for months and never planned. I nodded, added the occasional, but my mind was still back there on that street, in front of that black Charger. There was no lipstick smudged, no hair out of place, no trace of guilt in her tone. She was smooth, polished, perfectly Jenna. But I wasn't. Something inside me had shifted. The rest of the evening played out like a perfectly scripted scene in a play. We ordered takeout, watched half a Netflix documentary neither of us cared about, and then went to bed like always. She turned over and fell asleep within minutes, the soft rhythm of her breathing filling the silence. I stared at the ceiling, wide awake. That image, her in the car, the man beside her, the way she smiled at him, kept looping in my head. I wanted to believe I was overthinking it. That it was just a ride, just a coworker, just bad timing. But deep down I already knew. Because this wasn't the first time I'd felt something was off. And it wouldn't be the last. That night, I lay there in the dark, Jenna's back turned to me, and realized I wasn't imagining things. I was seeing them. Really seeing them. All the signs I'd ignored. All the little moments that hadn't added up. All the instincts I talked myself out of listening to. I didn't say a word. Not that night. Not the next morning. But something inside me had already broken. And it wasn't going to go back. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the ceiling fan and the soft, even sound of Jenna's breathing. It should have been comforting, her there, beside me. But all I felt was distance. A cold, hollow space between us that I hadn't noticed before but now couldn't unfeel. The next morning, everything moved in slow motion. The The coffee brewed, the toast popped, the bathroom door creaked just like always. Jenna moved through our morning routine with that same effortless grace. She kissed my cheek on her way out the door, her voice light, saying she had a lot to get done at work. I smiled and said, "See you tonight," even though my insides were screaming. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a coffee mug gone cold, trying to piece together the frayed ends of all the things I'd brushed off, overlooked, or explained away over the past few months. And there were a lot of them. Like how she suddenly started loving overtime. Jenna used to hate staying late, said office lighting gave her headaches and she couldn't think straight after 6 p.m. But lately? She stayed late too, sometimes 3 nights a week. Always meetings or deadlines that couldn't wait. I believed her. Or, more honestly, I wanted to believe her. Then there was the time I found lingerie in her gym bag. Expensive stuff. Stuff I'd never seen before. I remember picking it up, confused, and she walked in at that exact moment. I held it up and she laughed it off, said it was a gift for a friend's bridal shower. She never mentioned a shower before. Never mentioned it again. That should have been a red flag the size of Texas. But I let it go. There was the suitcase incident. She left for a business trip up to Dallas, told me she was driving, said she liked having the flexibility. She came back 4 days later claiming her suitcase got lost on the bus. Bus? I asked. She said she meant the shuttle to the hotel. Something about the story didn't add up. I remember standing there, blinking at her, trying to reconcile the words coming out of her mouth with the person I thought I knew. But again, I let it slide. She used to leave her phone out all the time. Sometimes even forgot where she put it. Now it was always face down, locked, and attached to her like a limb. I only noticed when I tried to play a song once and she grabbed it out of my hands so fast it made me flinch. And the showers. That was another thing. Jenna always showered in the morning. Always. It was part of her routine, wake up, shower, coffee, podcast. But about a month ago, she started showering late at night, sometimes right after she got home. She'd say work was exhausting or she needed to wash the day off. It was subtle at first, easy to dismiss. But now it felt suspicious. Like she was scrubbing something away. Looking back, each of these things could have been nothing. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was just a tired guy looking for answers in the cracks of a once solid marriage. But when you line them up side by side, they don't feel like coincidences. They feel like breadcrumbs. And I've been following them too late. I kept telling myself it was in my head. That couples go through rough patches. That Jenna loved me, she told me so, didn't she? We were planning a trip. Talking about buying a new couch. Hell, just last week we argued about what color to paint the guest bathroom. Normal couple stuff. Mundane, domestic stuff. But it all started to feel like camouflage. The worst part was how easy it had become for her to lie. If she was lying, she was good at it. Too good. And that scared me more than anything. Not just the idea of her being unfaithful, but how seamless it all seemed. How natural. That afternoon, I opened her laptop. She'd left it on the dining room table, same as always. I didn't go through anything. I just stared at it. My reflection in the screen looked like someone I didn't recognize. A man trying to hold onto something that might already be gone. I didn't want to be that guy. The suspicious husband, the one creeping through texts and phone logs, playing detective in his own house. But I was starting to understand why men do it. Why they need proof. Because knowing hurts, but guessing? Guessing K*LSU. That night I waited up. She texted around 6:45 to say she'd be home late. Again. I asked her if everything was okay at work. She said yeah, just a last-minute client call. Said not to wait up. That she'd bring home Thai if it wasn't too late. I didn't respond. She got home close to 10. Smelled like citrus and something faintly floral, not her usual perfume. Not unpleasant. Just unfamiliar. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair loosely pinned. She looked beautiful. She looked guilty. Sorry, she said, breezing into the kitchen like nothing was off. Everything took longer than expected. I brought your favorite. She held up the white paper bag like it was a peace offering. I nodded. Ate quietly. She talked about work. I asked questions. She answered them. Nothing in her tone gave her away, but everything in her eyes did. And I realized something right then. Jenna wasn't scared. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't acting like someone afraid of getting caught. She was acting like someone who already got away with it. That night, I stood in the bathroom brushing my teeth, staring at the 2 toothbrushes in the cup by the sink. Hers was pink. Mine was navy. They looked so normal. So ordinary. But they mocked me now. Silent, simple reminders of how blind I'd been. I crawled into bed next to her, pulled the blanket over us both, and stared at the ceiling again. I could hear the faint buzz of her phone on the nightstand, but she didn't check it. I wanted to reach for it. Wanted to know what secrets it held. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I laid there in silence, waiting for sleep that never came. Listening to the sound of her breathing, wondering who she'd been smiling for earlier that day. And when she rolled over in her sleep and rested her hand on my chest like she used to when everything still felt right, I didn't move. I didn't move at all. But I knew right then something had shifted forever. And I wasn't sure it was ever coming back. It happened the next morning. I was pouring coffee when my phone buzzed, an unknown number. No name. No preview. Just that little gray bubble sitting there, waiting to be opened. I almost ignored it. I don't usually click on random messages. But something about it felt intentional. Like it wasn't spam. Like it knew me. I tapped it open. There were 4 photos. The first was Jenna standing outside a hotel in Phoenix, suitcase in one hand, the same black Dodge Charger parked at the curb. The man from the car was with her. His hand was on the small of her back, subtle, almost respectful, like he was helping her navigate a curb. But her body leaned into his, like it belonged there. The second photo was worse. Them again, same man, same hotel, this time leaving together. Her hair was pulled back. She looked relaxed. His duffel bag slung casually over his shoulder. They walked in step. The third? They were at a gas station somewhere off the highway by the looks of it. He leaned against the car. She stood between his legs. They were laughing, heads tilted close, foreheads nearly touching. The kind of closeness that takes time to build. Trust. Familiarity. And the last one? That one ended all questions. It was the 2 of them kissing. Full on. Bold. Out in the open. By a rental car, maybe? Midday. No hiding. Her hands in his hair. His fingers resting at her waist like he'd done it 100 times before. Because he probably had. I didn't react. I didn't scream or cry or drop the phone. I just stood there, the smell of burnt toast rising from the kitchen, the coffee going cold in my hand. Beneath the photos was a single message. You deserve to know. My name's Laura. That's my husband she's with. I don't want anything from you, I just couldn't keep this to myself anymore. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. That was it. No drama. No rage. Just facts. Truth finally laid bare by someone who didn't owe me anything. It hit me harder than anything Jenna had ever said. Because it wasn't filtered through excuses or guilt, it just was. I stared at the screen for a long time. My thumb hovered over the reply box, but I didn't write back. I wasn't ready for that part yet. I set the phone down, walked into her bedroom, and opened the closet. It took me less than 10 minutes to pack Jenna's things. I wasn't surgical about it. I didn't toss her clothes around or rip anything up. I just folded them neatly into the small blue carry-on she always used for her overnight trips. The same one she said was lost. Apparently not. A few of her shirts still smelled like her perfume, vanilla, and something expensive. I zipped the suitcase shut, carried it to the front door, and placed it right next to the little shoe rack where she kept her heels lined up in order of comfort. Then I sat down on the couch and waited. I didn't think about what I'd say. I didn't need to. When Jenna walked through the door a little after 6 o'clock, she looked surprised to see me home. Her keys jingled as she tossed them in the bowl by the door, eyes scanning the room like she could sense something was off. Her gaze landed on the suitcase. What's that? She asked casually, as if it might be for a weekend trip I hadn't told her about. I didn't answer. She turned to me, her smile faltering. Alex? I held up my phone. No words. Just the screen. Just the photos. She froze. Her face drained of color so fast it was like someone flipped a switch. She didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stared. Then she spoke, softly. I can explain. I said nothing. She stepped forward, slow and careful. Alex, please let me explain. It's not what you think. I raised an eyebrow. Just one. That's all it took. Her voice cracked. Okay, it is what you think, but God, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't mean for it to get this far. Still, I didn't say a word. The silence stretched between us, thick and unrelenting. She dropped onto the edge of the couch, her hands trembling. I didn't plan it. It just started. We were on a project together and things were rough between us, and I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. I felt like I was disappearing, and he saw me. That line, he saw me. I'd read it in books. Heard it in shows. It never sounded real until it came out of her mouth. I looked at her then. Really looked. Her makeup was perfect, her blouse ironed, her nails still freshly painted from the salon trip she said was for self-care. She didn't look like someone caught in a mistake. She looked like someone who had lived in this double life long enough to make it feel like home. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. I finally spoke. But you did. She nodded, tears forming now. I know. More than once. Another nod. I know. And you were never going to tell me. Her silence confirmed what we both already knew. Then she said it. The one sentence that ended everything. I think I fell in love with him. She said it like it was a confession. Like it explained the whole thing. And maybe it did. But not in the way she thought. Because in that moment I didn't feel rage. Or heartbreak. Or even betrayal. I felt clarity. Our marriage hadn't ended when she kissed him. It ended long before that. I had just been the last one to notice. When she said it, I think I fell in love with him, it didn't hit me the way I thought it would. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I didn't cry. In fact, I felt nothing for a few seconds. Just a weird emptiness, like someone had vacuumed the air out of the room and left me standing in a soundless vacuum. Maybe because I'd already known it. Maybe because I had already started to detach. Jenna sat there on the couch, crying into her hands, but I didn't move to comfort her. That's what I might have done before, rubbed her back, told her we'd figure it out, convinced myself that everyone makes mistakes. But not now. That version of me, the man who believed in us, was already gone. I never meant for it to go that far, she said through sobs. It started and I thought I could stop it. But it kept happening and she choked on the words. I didn't know how to come back from it. I stayed quiet. I watched her fall apart in front of me and all I could think about was how controlled she had been the last few weeks. How good she was at hiding this. She had kissed me in the morning and kissed him by evening. Told me she loved me and shared hotel rooms with another man. Bought groceries for dinner, then texted him from the checkout line. And I'd been here the whole time. Blind. Loyal. Stupid. When she finally looked up, her makeup was smeared and her hands were shaking. Alex, please, she said. Please don't do this. We can fix this. I want to fix this. I glanced at the suitcase by the door. Still zipped up. Still neat. She hadn't touched it. How? I asked. She blinked, caught off guard by the simplicity of the question. How do you fix this, Jenna? Do you turn back time? Do you erase the hotel receipts? The photos? The lie you told when you said you were in Dallas for work but were actually in Phoenix with him? She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. Don't answer. That's rhetorical. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her cardigan, sniffling like a kid who got caught sneaking out. We've been through worse. We can get through this. I almost laughed. Worse? No, I said. We haven't. She stood up then, came toward me like she was going to reach for my hand, and for the first time in our marriage, I stepped back. She stopped mid-step, frozen. You don't get to comfort me right now, I said. My voice wasn't angry. It was calm. Steady. I think that unnerved her more than if I'd screamed. I know I messed up, she said. But I still love you. I met her eyes. You said you love him. I do. I mean, I thought I did. But it's different with you. It's deeper. It's not the same. I didn't know what that meant, and frankly, I didn't care. You don't get to have it both ways, Jenna, I said. You don't get to fall for someone else and then come back here and say it's different. You made your choice. I just finally saw it. She dropped back onto the couch like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. What do I do? She whispered. I stared at her for a long moment. You leave. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I'm not kicking you out tonight, I clarified. But I need you gone. By the weekend. She shook her head, slowly at first, like she didn't believe me. Alex, we've built a life. And you dismantled it. Brick by brick. Don't act surprised now that it's gone. I walked past her and down the hall to our bedroom, my bedroom, from this point on. I closed the door softly, not slamming it. I didn't want drama. I just wanted peace. The next morning, I didn't make coffee for two. I didn't lay out her vitamins on the counter like I used to. I didn't ask about her meetings or her schedule. She walked into the kitchen like she expected something normal, and what she got was silence. I sat at the table, laptop open, emails half-read. She hovered for a moment, like she wanted to say something, then left without a word. When the front door clicked shut, I exhaled. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. The rest of that day, I began untangling the knots she had left behind. Passwords changed. Joint calendar deleted. Her access to my cloud files revoked. Felt cold, maybe even petty, but I needed it. Each action was a thread I was cutting, slowly separating my life from hers. She texted me once that afternoon. Do you want to talk tonight? I stared at the message for a full minute, then turned off my phone. That night she came home early, maybe to talk, maybe to beg. I didn't give her the chance. I stayed in the spare room and locked the door. I could hear her crying on the other side. I didn't open it. She slept on the couch. I heard the squeak of it when she shifted sometime around 3 a.m. I used to get up when she had insomnia, rub her back, bring her tea. Now I closed my eyes and forced sleep. The next morning, she tried again. "I've called a therapist," she said as I walked through the kitchen. "I scheduled a couples session. We don't even have to talk about the affair if you're not ready. We can just be in the room together." I poured my coffee. She waited. I took a sip, then said, without looking at her, "There's no couple left to save." She stopped trying after that. For the next 2 days, we moved like strangers in a house we used to call home. She packed slowly. I didn't watch. She cried quietly. I didn't respond. I wasn't being cruel. I was protecting what was left of me. By the time Saturday morning rolled around, she was ready to go. The suitcase I had packed was now joined by 2 more. She wore her favorite oversized sweater and those white sneakers she always said made her feel like she could walk for miles. She didn't look glamorous. She looked wrecked. I stood by the door, not offering to help. "I'll send you my new address," she said. I nodded. She hesitated, then asked, "Will you ever forgive me?" That was the first time I looked her in the eyes since the day she confessed. "I don't think forgiveness is part of this story." She nodded once, bit her lip, then walked out, and that was it. No begging, no last-minute apology, just quiet, like a balloon finally out of air. The moment the door clicked shut, I sat down on the floor of our living room, just sat there, among the echoes of everything we used to be, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not peace, not yet, but gravity, the weight of truth settling in, and the first real breath I'd taken in a long, long time. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated before answering. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something about this whole situation had rewired me. I didn't ignore things anymore. I faced them. "Hello. Hi. Is this Alex Brady?" Her voice was calm, careful. Female. Mid-30s, maybe. There was a steadiness in her tone, like someone used to holding themselves together even under pressure. "Yes," I said. "This is Laura. I sent you the photos. I hope that's okay." Took me a second to find my voice. Yeah, I got them." A pause. Then, "I'm sorry. I didn't know how else to get the truth to you." I stood in my kitchen, the sunlight catching dust in the air like tiny fireflies. I stared out the window. "You don't need to apologize. I didn't do it for revenge," she added quickly, as if she'd been rehearsing. "I'm not that person. I believe you." More silence. Not awkward, just heavy. "I was wondering," she said hesitantly, "if you'd be willing to meet. I know that's a lot to ask, but I think we'd both benefit from clarity." Clarity. That word had started following me around. I said yes, not because I wanted to reopen wounds, but because something in her voice sounded like someone trying to heal the same way I was. We met that Friday at a quiet coffee shop tucked away behind a bookstore downtown. I got there early, sat at a corner table where I could see the whole room. I don't know what I expected. Maybe someone bitter, angry, on the edge. But when Laura walked in, she looked composed. Tired, but composed. She was wearing jeans and a navy coat, her hair tied back in a low knot. She scanned the room, spotted me, and offered a small nod. No smile. No theatrics. Just 2 people who had been dragged through the same fire. She sat down across from me and ordered tea. I stuck with black coffee. "Thank you for coming," she said. I nodded. "Thank you for sending the truth." She let out a breath, then reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. "I don't know how much Jenna told you, but this wasn't a one-time thing. It's been going on for months. Maybe longer. My husband, his name's Caleb, by the way, he's not good at covering his tracks. And eventually, I stopped ignoring the signs. I took the folder, not opening it yet. I hired a private investigator," she said. "He was discreet. All of the photos I sent you came from him. But there's more flights, hotel confirmations, receipts, even some screen captures from a shared cloud account they apparently forgot to log out of." She watched me as I flipped through the documents. It was all there. A room booked under both of their names in Phoenix. A dinner reservation for 2 at a place Jenna swore she'd never been. A blurry screenshot asterisk T of a video call, Jenna sitting at a hotel desk, and just behind her, a mirror. In that mirror, Caleb. Shirtless. Out of focus, but unmistakable. You've done your homework, I said, closing the folder gently. I had to. I couldn't sit in the dark anymore. I understood that more than I could explain. I kept thinking maybe I was just insecure, she continued. That maybe I was being dramatic. But you can only gaslight yourself for so long. Yeah, I said. I know the feeling. She took a sip of her tea and leaned back. So what now? Are you divorced? Not yet. But she's gone. That was step one. Laura gave a short, sad laugh. I wish I could say the same. Caleb's still living at our place. He says he's sorry. Says he wants to work through it. She looked down at her mug. But I don't think sorry's enough this time. It's not, I said without hesitation. Her eyes lifted to meet mine, and there was something in her gaze, solidarity, maybe. Or recognition. Like we were both seeing the worst parts of love reflected in each other. I didn't just ask you here to compare stories, she said after a pause. I have a plan. That got my attention. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. I used to work with Jenna. Not directly, different departments, but I know the policies at your firm. Internal relationships are strictly prohibited if you're working on overlapping clients. And from what I can tell, Jenna and Caleb have violated that rule at least a dozen times. I said nothing. I didn't even blink. I have screenshot asterisk TS of emails, calendar invites, even 2 joint presentations they gave to the same account teams. That's enough to start an investigation. If we submit this to HR anonymously or through a third party, it won't just be a scandal. It'll be termination. I ran a hand down my face. You want to blow it up? No. I want accountability. There it was again. The difference between revenge and responsibility. I'm not asking you to do anything you're not comfortable with, she said. But I'm doing it. With or without your help. I looked down at the folder again. All the facts, all the dates, all the proof. I didn't need more evidence of Jenna's betrayal. But I did want something else. Closure. Not the kind you find in a therapist's office. The kind that leaves a paper trail. I'll help, I said. Laura nodded. Then let's do it right. We spent the next hour piecing together a timeline. Jenna and Caleb weren't just reckless, they were stupid. Travel overlaps, digital receipts, even Slack logs that Laura somehow pulled from her old company portal. It was all there, just waiting to be connected. When we parted ways, she shook my hand. Firm. Grateful. That night, I sat at my desk long after midnight organizing files and writing a statement. It wasn't about hurting Jenna. Not anymore. It was about drawing a line. Because people like her and Caleb don't stop unless someone makes them. It took just one email. Laura submitted the report to HR using a private account, attaching everything: flight logs, screenshot asterisk TS, call times, even the mirror photo. I backed it with a timeline. Within 3 days, HR launched a formal investigation. Jenna and Caleb were both pulled into meetings. By the end of the week, they were gone, terminated for policy violations. No warnings. No severance. Jenna tried texting me. At first, it was calm, can we talk? Then desperate, please. Just one chance. I never replied. Not once. My silence became the only truth I had left to offer her, and it was
Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like. Bye bye.